Hi everyone, and welcome to part 2 of the build challenge. So here I've laid down the paint on the cab and I'm just using some of the brown paint to give a bit of a leather effect on the interior. Just airbrushing light coats, going over it a couple of times until I get a decent covering. I want to take this opportunity to thank Rob again from Do You RC. So if you haven't already been over and had a look, go and have a look at his channel. He does some fantastic reviews on small scale, very specifically these FCX24s. Now here I'm cleaning the airbrush out using a spray foam cleaner. If you're looking for a decent cleaner for your airbrush, then check that out. And this is my Iwata twin airbrushing compressor. That's the interior, all ready to put back together. So I'm just laying down some paint on the wheel arches. I decided to brush these because I wanted a little bit more of a gloss effect. The airbrush does tend to give a little bit of a matte finish. Obviously that's dependent on the paint that you're using. Now because I'd opted to strip the wheels down and use the original wheels, I thought about giving them a different colour. So the beige colour is the undercoat primer, and I just used one of the rattle cans available from a supplier like Halfords. Now I'm just laying down some white using the airbrush. Giving them a bit of a dry with the hot air gun just between coats. Now I've probably laid down 2 or 3 coats of the white just so that it makes it a little bit more resilient. And now I think I've missed a couple of spots, so I've just gone back to make sure that I've got everything coated. And just to help me with painting, I've put a few tiny little screws into a piece of wood, and then I just hang the wheels on there. And as you can see, the air from the brush is just turning around every now and then, which helps me get at the different angles. So that's the wheels now completed. So just going to the 3D printer now. I found this camper body on Thingiverse, I think, and I just adjusted the sizes to suit the model that I was building. So I'm using my new Bamboo Lab P1S printer. It's absolutely fantastic. If you're thinking of getting into 3D printing, I highly recommend one of these. Here I'm just using some plumber's lead just to weight the wheels a bit. And then I flicked some paint, brown paint, onto the white just to give it a bit of, make it look like it's like they're muddy. And then on with the original tyres over the weighted rim. And I wanted to try these tyres because they look like proper Unimog tyres, and I actually really like that look. So just putting the wheels back together. These are a 2-part wheel, so they kind of work like a bead lock, and that little dowel there just helps you line the wheels up. So when you go to put the screws in, hopefully everything will line up properly. This is a great little tool from Max. If anyone's interested in getting one, then just have a look on Amazon. Max electronic screwdriver. Fantastic for these tiny little screws. It's rechargeable with a USB-C, and it's also got a bit of a torque setting on it as well. I think it's four torque settings. But for tiny little screws like this, it definitely saves the palm of your hands. Just going round again just to make sure they're all done up evenly. Last thing I want is one of these wheels falling off when I'm out on the trails. There you go, just showing it off there. Forward and reverse buttons, it couldn't be any easier to use. Right, we're back in the shop, and one of the things that I need to work on is the interior. Now the reason I want to get the interior done is so that I can get the cab built up and get that all attached, and then once that's on I can get the electric sorted out, and once the electrics are sorted out I can sort the body out. So a bit of a storyline going on here, but so what I've done, I've found a figurine online. I've printed this out 2 or 3 times because I'm trying to get the scale of it right, and I think, to be honest, unfortunately I'm going to have to lop his legs off, so I won't show that on camera because it's not going to be the nicest thing. I think he needs to be a little tad bigger, just to suit the driving position a little bit more. Don't know, maybe I'll have a play with it, and then we'll come back in a minute and see what you think. Okay, so I've modified the driver a little bit. I think he's sitting in there okay. He's not too tall for the cab, which is obviously ideal. Let's just pop him in there and see if we can get a sneak peek. So it needs to go up a little bit more, but you get the idea. So he's in the cab. I think that looks pretty cool. So now I've got to give him a bit of paint, and I'll tell you what, painting's not my favourite thing. So if any of you got any tips or techniques out there that you use for painting small detail stuff, I'd appreciate the advice for my next one. But I think he's in white. We'll give him a coat of like undercoat, and then I'll get the little paints out and we'll see what we can do with him. Here I'm doing genuinely one of my least favourite things, which is painting small intricate figures. So just giving it a bit of undercoat, primer, so that the paint I put on goes on a bit easier, gives a little bit of a better finish as well. I like to use this quite a lot when I'm painting stuff that I've 3D printed. Just a Tamiya fine surface primer. It's easily available from most hobby shops. Goes on really well. I quite often see people using it for things like Warhammer figures, so I thought it would be perfect for this. I've stuck it to this bit of plastic tubing as well, just to make it a bit easier for me to manoeuvre when I'm painting it, that's all. Here I start laying down some paint for the skin colour, the hands and the face. And as you can see, I'm no Tony Hart, but I do have a go. Nice pair of blue jeans. I think any sort of rugged driver will be wearing blue jeans. And a bit of contrast for that. Nice bright red shirt. I'd run out of tartan paint, so I had to go with this. Just finish him off all the way round, because you will see round the back as well. One thing I don't have is hair, so just giving him a bit of a mop. Just using that Citadel brown again. It's a nice colour, and these are really nice paints. And I think you'll agree, it looks awful. So we're back here today after a couple of days of been doing a bit of work on on the Unimog. So a couple of things that I've done. Obviously I want to get the edge over Rob, although this is a fun build off. But let me know what you guys are thinking as to my build at the moment. So as I said in the last video, I stripped it right down literally into a box of pieces. I wanted to get into the gubbins to see how it was put together and what I was dealing with. I already explained about the axles. I tried to get hold of some heavier axles, but I think Rob bought them all. So when I tried to get some, everywhere was out of stock. So I've had to improvise, and what I've done is I stripped the wheels down and I've put some lead inside the wheels. Good old fashioned trick. And it's brought the centre of gravity of the chassis right down, which is really good. What I've also done is lowered things in the chassis as best I can. I've moved the electrics around, and don't know what you guys think. Done a little bit of weathering on the wheels, and that looks quite cool. So obviously this was bright red before I started. Now I've gone for the blue because I think it's quite a classic colour for sort of Unimogs and tractors, etc. And stripped the interior down, given that a bit of a coat of paint, and I'm in the process of printing some figures to go in there. Don't know whether to do like a driver and maybe a dog. I think it would look pretty cool, rather than a family, I've put the original lights back in, and I've just sort of hinted some of these trims up with a little bit of silver paint as well. Should make them look quite cool. Now one thing I'm thinking about doing is a bit more weathering. So where the wipers sweep, I might make it look like the windshield is dirty, where the wipers sweep is clean. So let me know what you think on that. And then when it comes to the actual body itself, so I've got my windows in, it's got wooden window frames, wooden bed, which this sits on. I've hollowed it out inside as well to try and keep the weight down a bit. Just got to do the back door. I think I might put like a fly mesh in the back door. I think it'd look quite cool, and then paint the lights. And I'm thinking like some sort of light bar up here. Now whether I'll get that to actually work, I'm not sure yet. I'm a little bit cautious of weight, because obviously it's a little model and every gram is going to make a big difference. But let's just pop it together and see what you think so far. So one of the other things I did to try and sort of reduce the weight down a bit was I've actually modified the mounts on the bottom of the cab. So the cab is sitting probably about 10mm lower than it normally would. So if I sit that where it should sit, I've relocated the electrics as well, so that should all help. Hopefully that's sitting about right. Is that right? Oh, that's right, the antenna's stuck in there. So there we go. So that's basically where the body will sit. So we've still got clearance in our arches, which I really like that look. I think that looks really sort of neat. Whereas before, sort of when the suspension was fully down, you still had about this much gap, which I think looked a little bit too much, in my opinion. So yeah, I'm thinking that's looking a little bit cooler. And then if I just sit that body on there, so here we are at the moment. This is where we're at. So it is sitting down on the suspension, as you can see. It's the weight's obviously making it sag, but I can play with the suspension. I can adjust the springs and things like that. I can put some spacers in and bring it back up if I need to, because actually, it's still got the suspension, but it's lowering the centre of gravity, which is good. But yeah, overall, I'm really happy with the look of it. So I think with the dirty windows, I'm going to do a few little accessories. I've got still within the box of bits, I've got that's probably the fuel tank, which I might try and hide the battery in there. I've got, I don't know, this might be an air tank maybe, don't know. Let me know in the comments if you've been in a Unimog or if you've driven a Unimog. And of course I've got the rear arches to go back on as well, which have got some lights. Now these are imitation lights, so they obviously won't work, but yeah, so they'll set up there. That'll be the rear arches, and it'll just sort of fill that gap a little bit. And then what do you think? Maybe a ladder on the back so you can get up to the roof rack, and then I'm going to pinch an idea off Rob and get some accessories in the roof rack. I think that would look really cool, along with the snorkel's got to go on. What have I got? So I've got wing mirrors, I've got the snorkel, there. I've got these sort of side lights here, so they'll go back on. The wipers have got to go in, and one of the good things that I've got left to do is the bumper. So as most of you probably know, I'm quite fond of making bumpers, so yeah, I think we might jazz that up a bit and maybe make it I might 3D print some actually, just to try and keep the weight down a little bit, so I'll have a look. And yeah, so obviously it's not finished, lots of the trim bits left to do, and hopefully I can get the electrics that I need to back under the bonnet, which would be good, because that hides it all. And yeah, that's where we're at. So I haven't seen Rob's yet. It'd be interesting to see what he's done, if he's followed the similar sort of lines. We did have a little bit of a chat, and we threw lots of ideas about, so I don't know what ideas he's going to go with, but I'm really looking forward to seeing it and seeing what you guys think of both my build and of Rob's build as well, because I know that they're going to be different, which is going to be brilliant, and I'm really looking forward to it. And you know, I've got to say a massive thanks to Rob for sort of setting this up. It's one of those things, we talked about it very briefly at the SST last year, and we just thought it'd be a really cool sort of series of videos where the both of us are modifying the same model and trying to get some different ideas of what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. So let us know what you guys think, and I look forward to showing you it in the next video. Right, hopefully you can all see this. You'll have to excuse, I've got some crazy light coming into the workshop this evening. I'm not knocking it because we haven't had a lot of sunshine here in the UK. So just a quick sort of recap of what I've been up to. So there's been a lot of painting going on. I 3D printed this sort of camper style body as well. Now I've watched Rob's first video, and we had sort of a similar idea. Obviously I've always wanted to do like an overland style build, but never really had the right vehicle for it, and I just thought this Unimog is going to be perfect for it. So I hope you don't mind that we've both done sort of similar theme, but looking at Rob's and looking at mine, they're both completely different. So what I've been doing is printed this body, printed window frames, and sort of coloured the windows because I wanted to make them look like they're like really old perspex windows, which I think looks quite cool. So it's sort of in period and in keeping with the vehicle. We're both suffering the same issue with the suspension, so I have got a bit of a plan to sort of try and sort that out a little bit. Printed a roof rack on the top with a high lift jack, which I thought looked pretty cool, but now I'm thinking I'm going to need a ladder so that the person could get up to the top. Around the front, if you can see inside, done a little bit of weathering, made it all look all sort of wet and dirty and horrid. So I've weathered it a little bit, but one of the key things is my metal bumper. I'm quite pleased with that. I think that's come out, looks very in keeping, and it fits in where the original would go. So that is it's obviously fabricated metal, and it's been soldered together, silver soldered together. The lights will work, which will look good when it's on, and I'm thinking maybe a light bar, just sort of take it that little bit further, or maybe a couple of lights on top of the cap. Yeah, really rocky, so definitely need to sort something out with that. And then on the back, no overlander would be complete without some extra fuel. Obviously splattered mud and things. I've got a little bit more painting to do on there. I wanted to leave the back free because I thought it needs that sort of departure angle, so I'm going to leave that. But yeah, that's where I'm at so far. Haven't really done any sort of major mods with the body and the with the chassis, etc. itself. I wanted to try and keep it fairly stock, you know, so that if you wanted to replicate it, you wouldn't have to spend a lot in order to do it. So I'm going to move on, and I'm going to get the little suspension mod done that I want to do, and hopefully it works. And then if it does, I'll show you what it is. If it doesn't, I'm going to edit this out, so you'll never know. Okay, so the little suspension mod I was going to do was literally just replace these original springs, which got very little resistance whatsoever. In fact, they're only 0.4 millimeters in diameter, and these should be a lot thicker. So these are 0.8. So double the thickness should technically be double the resistance. I'm hoping that's enough to overcome that wobbly body, but still give me a bit of flex. So they fit on perfectly. I did measure them beforehand, so I knew what I was getting. Do probably be a tiny little bit too short, so I might open them up just a fraction. There we go, nice cheap suspension mod. They fit on there perfectly. I've just put one of the spacers that come with them just to take up some of the slack. But there we go, it just uses the original suspension shocks. So I took these apart, just put a tiny little bit of grease in there just to make them a bit smoother. They do still fully compress, which is good. So let's get them back on and see how much difference it's made to the suspension. Right, I reckon that's come out okay. Quite pleased with the, that wasn't me, that was the chair. Quite pleased with the little suspension mod. So hopefully you can see that I've replaced the springs, replaced them on all four corners obviously, and definitely improved that suspension. So you can see how it's risen up now where it was sagging before, and if I just sit this on top, there we go. So it droops a little bit, but it's definitely taken a lot of that wobble out. So hopefully going from these tiny little springs here, can't even focus on it, tiny little springs. Luckily I was replacing them because I damaged one when I was taking it off, but they are absolutely tiny. And then yeah, just replaced them with these 0.8mm stainless steel ones, easily available from Amazon. So I guess I'll get it back together again and give it a try. Right, that's the suspension installed and the body reattached. So it's still got a bit of wobble, as to be expected, but it's not all saggy like it was before, and it's still got a decent amount of flex. You know, at the end of the day, I'm going to be sort of overlanding this rather than proper rock crawling with it, but I think that's going to look pretty damn cool. I'm not sure if you noticed or not, but little driver in there as well that I painted up. You can't see out the window at the moment because it's all dirty, but yeah, I've hid him in there because the painting's not the best, let's put it that way. So going to do a little bit of Rob Star. I've got some stickers that I'm going to put on there just to make it look like a bit more of an overland truck, and get something like that ladder printed up, maybe a light bar. Yeah, so we're getting there. Right, here we are. This is the finished article now. I've run out of time before we head off to a show, but I'm hoping that I've done enough to get some decent points from you guys. So just a quick whip round. So I lowered the whole thing about 10mm just to get it sitting in the arches a bit better. I personally like the look a bit more. I thought on sort of full suspension, sort of like this, it was just sitting a bit too high, and obviously adding the weight dropped it right down too low. So I'm quite happy with the ride height. I've still got a bit of suspension, and I'm looking forward to getting this twisted up across the trails. So a couple of little bits that I added, I've just added this antenna, just, you know, quite a bit of a scale accessory, and I think it'll look quite good in video, sort of pinging around. I think we've all had CB radios in our vehicles when we've been off-roading. So just around the front, just to recap on the bumper that I made, so that's made from steel. Quite pleased with that. The lights are switchable from the transmitter as well, so they look pretty cool. Sadly, I have put a light bar on there, but sadly I didn't have any LED small enough to fit in there. So maybe that'll be something I can add on in the future. Did the patina on the wheels, they've come up quite well. I put some weight in the wheels as well. Earlier in the video you may have seen that I put some lead in the wheels just to give it that lower centre of gravity, because of obviously adding this weight. Coloured the windows in. I added this little ladder because obviously they need some way to get up to the top. Nice high lift jack there. On the top, accessory wise, I've got a couple of extra fuel cans on the top. I've added a canoe and some sort of sandboards and a bit of heavy duty rope. I think that looks pretty cool. A couple of fuel cans on the back, and yeah, I think overall I'm quite happy with that. Hope you've enjoyed sort of seeing what I've been doing to it. To be honest, I just want to get it out on the trails now and see how it drives, and I'm looking forward to having a drive with Rob and doing a bit of video together. You know, it's not often you see things like this modified in this way, and it's certainly a first for me. I've not done one of these, so I've really enjoyed it. It's been quite a challenge because obviously it's small. Every little bit of weight you add is obviously emphasised, especially more so than a 1/10. But yeah, hopefully you all like it, and drop your comments, and please don't forget to like and subscribe. There's still a lot of you that view that aren't subscribed, and I know that it means a lot to me, and obviously it helps me out. So please join us in the next one when we get out on the trails and we'll see these in action.